never make it far. As for me, I'm at it grinding, and I'm always working on till I'm more. And they know me worldwide, I'm just looking for a ride or die, always down to ride. So tell me if you with me, if you not, move out my way.
Everyone, this is Frederick Jones, publisher for Saturday AM, and this is Call It Manga.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler, your narrator for this Test Flight Express, the second contest of 2016. The way this is going to work is we'll have 8 selected entries and honorable mention, and after that, our finalists. Keep in mind that these are edited responses from the team of reviewers, and for the complete experience, go watch the full-length Test Flight Live Winner Reveal video at Saturday AM's YouTube channel. Entry number 1, Ogre Grotto by Jelani Devines. Series pitch, MEGAMAN Battle Network meets Black Lagoon. As for series potential, Teresa says no, Andrea says no, Peter says no, and Frederick says no. Frederick, the publisher, says, "From what I can gather, this is a story about women who can summon monsters working for an agency, but it's not clear. This is a frustrating effort as the artwork has moments that are visually unlike anything I've seen, but then has a plot that makes such little sense that the entire presentation appears sophomoric." Andrea, the creator of Saigami, says, "Jelani's artwork is solid, with interesting shots and cool monster designs, but the story felt like a mashup of random but cool cliché elements, which made me feel completely lost." Peter, an editor, says, "Top-tier art, but a story that lacks focus." Entry number 2, Enter Hero by Kalani Corbett and Elijah Duncan. Series pitch, Legend of Zelda meets MAGI. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says no. Frederick says, "Glad to see creators team up as writer and artist, but while the art here is promising, the writing seems half composed. The world makes too little sense, the action and story seem rushed, and the focus of the action doesn't come through as engaging enough. While I like the idea of a virtual reality dungeon, this entry doesn't explain enough of why this exists and how magic ties into it for this to be compelling." Teresa, an editor, says, "Great improvement from the last test flight, and I like the idea of a government-run virtual reality game. However, I don't understand why a government would not only encourage but force people to play games." Peter says, "A fun series with fun art that has the flexibility to be serious or comedic as required." Entry number 3, Rhythm Royale by Christian Sandino and Javier Lugo. Series pitch, BECK Mongolian Chop Squad meets Scott Pilgrim. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says no. Frederick says, "This is so close to being great, but the execution makes me wonder if this can be saved. Great premise in a music manga about a wannabe rock star. Decent art and a truly awesome name marred by juvenile characterizations and no hints of using the concept in unique ways. I want this to be like Scott Pilgrim with strong characters, but this entry does not show that." Andrea says, "Refreshing entry with relatable story and protagonist. Solid art, but the designs are kinda lackluster." Teresa says, "I find the concept very attractive, simple, and clear. What I couldn't see is, what makes this different from every other musician series out there?" Entry number 4, Calamity by Emmanuel Ayton. Series pitch, Yuzuru OTANASHI'S backstory meets Vampiric Vendetta. Teresa says no, Andrea says no, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says, "The Bleach influences in the art are a bit much, but more than anything, this entry is dogged by several fanfic desires, such as irrational plot decisions and overuse of the logo and a Japanese setting that doesn't seem authentic or necessary. That said, with the family drama and the soccer, I think this could be rescued from itself." Andrea says, "The main concept could be interesting, but I'm not sure if Emmanuel can mesh the sport elements in the story for good." Teresa says, "This reminded me too much of Captain Tsubasa initially. Even the name of the rival team and of the creator refers back to the show. I did like how Emmanuel tried to mix in a supernatural element for a touch of originality." Entry number 5, Eagle by Kanmi Afolabi. Series pitch, Bakuman meets gaming. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says, despite the very odd name and overtly melodramatic and nonsensical character moments, the story concept is interesting and the art has true personality. The art reminds me of 1980s independent comics, but considering this deals with video games, that may be a barrier for younger readers. Teresa says, cool concept with lots of potential, but I don't understand the character's motivation. Does he want to be a pro gamer just because he is lazy and doesn't want a job? If he is lazy, he won't become a world-class pro gamer, right? This would need to be fixed to get fans to root for the hero. Peter says, a story that I can't believe hasn't been done before, but the art is going to have to push itself to keep up. Entry number 6, Light of Babylon by Tyler DeBerry. Series pitch, Star Wars meets Avatar: The Last Airbender. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says no. Frederick says, Tyler has real potential as an artist, but it requires more imagination with character design, anatomy, and world building than is here. Character designs that pull from Naruto, power and political elements from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and some pretentious nonsense about light and dark are underwhelming for an artist who can grow to be amazing. Teresa says, very solid and well-crafted entry. However, my only fear is that this will get lost amongst the hundreds of adventure fantasy titles out there. Peter says, has a lot of the tried and true story elements to make an epic fantasy saga, but hard to say if the writing or art is up to it. Entry number 7, Deadeye by Vinnie Sandins. Series pitch, Daredevil meets Bench meets Sandlot. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says, at first a great concept and name, but there are some red flags given the concept is too similar to a series within Bakuman, and the creator doesn't appear to have a firm grasp on the potential of the series. What position does Jason play? Why is he allowed to play baseball by officials? That said, some very funny and clever moments highlight the potential of the series, and it has some of the best diversity ever in Test Flight. If the art were better, this could be a huge hit. Teresa says, strong, solid concept for a sports manga with an original twist. Very memorable character designs. The art needs a bit of work as it feels stiff and at times proportions are wrong. Peter says, has the foundation of a good sports story but needs improvement in the art. Entry number 8, Jericho by Ture Baril. Series pitch, X-Men meets the Black Panthers. Teresa says no, Andrea says no, Peter says no, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says, perfect example of how adding more pages hurts more than helps. Concept is intriguing as experiments on black inmates in Tuskegee were not only real but shameful. Adding a superhero element to that is inspired, but the pages submitted do not allude to this, nor do they follow our guidelines for this test flight. This entry spends far too much time on a non-important scene with art that appears cluttered. I think this could be a strong series, but it would have benefited from fewer pages, better art, and a more thoughtful examination of the premise. Teresa says, this entry shows Ture's potential, but not his ability to craft a story. The excess in pages show eagerness, but also a lack of understanding of his story. Your first chapter is to excite readers as to what they are going to read, not update them on what they have missed. Peter says, a really cool concept, but while some thought has been put into the overarching story, it's hard to see how this would operate as a series. Our honorable mention is Astronite by Dejan Talarkovic. Series pitch MAGI meets Toriko. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says the young artist Dejan is the real star here. Great art, character design, and a novel mining concept, which while none are perfect, all show devastatingly good potential. The science of this series makes no sense, but the fun of this entry is evident to all. Andrea says simple mainstream shonen with matching fun artwork. Teresa says charming art and fun concept. It is simple and clear. Peter says fun art but a lackluster story. Second place is Animal Instinct by Julius Paul Ebanada. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says everything here has potential: art, story, and execution. While the art is ultra detailed, it is too exaggerated at times, and the story seems too loose to be thrilled by the brutality of the sport of boxing. Still, the underdog theme and energy are admirable and simply cannot be ignored. Andrea says well-executed sport manga with unique and amazing artwork, but the story needs a bit more work. Teresa says unique art style and voice, very refreshing to read. I love how raw and dark it is, and I'm looking forward to following this artist's evolution. Peter says incredible art, but little to suggest a sustainable series. This contest we actually had 2 entries tied for first place. The first of these entries is Monkey's Way by Michelle Massarolo. Series pitch Journey of the West meets Prince of Egypt. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says perfect execution, excellent design, and character interaction between 2 young boys which seemed authentic. This entry of the Monkey King reincarnated within 2 young boys who must stop a religious war is hampered only slightly by a confusing and potentially stuffed overall plot. Andrea says beautiful pro artwork, intriguing pitch, and engaging characters. Teresa says beautiful art and great dynamic visual storytelling. My only worry here is that this is drawing from a classic of Chinese literature and Eastern beliefs. I hope the author has done his research and knows enough about these things to write about them. Peter says beautiful art and what appears to be an intriguing story, although there's elements to it that concern me. The second entry tied for first place is El Toro by Dervins Moyes. Series pitch Mucha Lucha meets Ultimate Muscle. Teresa says yes, Andrea says yes, Peter says yes, and Frederick says yes. Frederick says brought a smile to my face. This fun concept around masked wrestling has fun art that helps to cover some of the more amateurish moments in the execution and presentation. Still, it has a joy to it that reminds one of One Punch Man and Ultimate Muscle. Could be a big hit. Andrea says fun and entertaining comic with really good and dynamic artwork. Teresa says this sounds like a fun read and the art has that realistic quality that makes everything a bit more surreal, which I find hilarious. Peter says incredible artwork and a story that could be insane. Congratulations to Michelle and Dervins, and that about wraps it up for this Test Flight Express. Now, if you want to see any of these manga get published within Saturday M's digital magazines, be sure to pick up issue number 49 for free and vote for your favorite entry. You can find the full 4-hour live version of the Test Flight at Saturday M's YouTube channel, and for more great manga webcomics and comics tutorials, be sure to subscribe. I'm Tyler from the channel FanSyndrome, and we'll see you guys next time.